Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to make yourself a cup of tea or coffee with snacks if you want, because today we have very interesting stories, and one of them is a story about a woman who left her child at the retail store to babysit and got upset when she got in trouble. Please subscribe if you haven't and I hope you'll enjoy it. So I have a son who is currently 5 years old, but we've been traveling by plane since he was 6 months old due to our living an 18-hour drive from my family, parents, younger sibling, grandparents, etc. In the US, you generally don't need to buy a plane ticket for a child under 2 years old. You can buy a seat, like if you want to bring your baby in their carrier or just want to use a car seat, but they can also be considered a lap child and sit in your lap for free. When my son was about 1.5 years old, we were flying back to my hometown to go visit my family. We were flying on an airline named the opposite of Northeast. On this airline, an adult with a child under 6 years old, ERK, gets to board right after the A110-ish boarding numbers and before the A1160 or whatever it is. Which was helpful for me to get me some extra time to find a seat and settle with my kid. Now, he was under 2, so he could have flown for free and sat in my lap. But after the flight we had taken a few months before that, where he was hell on wheels, and I was mortified by how terrible we probably made our roommates' flights, I decided to buy him a plane ticket so we would have a little more room for our things, diaper bag, toys to entertain him, snacks, juice and breast milk, blanket, etc. I hated to feel like I was inconveniencing other passengers with my child when I had to keep him to such a small confined space to begin with. It was better to give him some extra room in the form of his own seat so as not to crowd others when he wanted to get out of my lap or try to look out the window, etc. Plus, then I could sit between him and provide a buffer for his wayward feet. He was generally, and still is, a really good little traveler, but every 1.5-year-old has their moments, as other parents can understand. I swear I do my best to keep him under control. If you've never flown with a child under 2 as a lap child, you should know that, when you go to check your bags at the airport, you get a normal boarding pass for yourself as well as a boarding pass for the child that clearly says lap infant across the top of it. Otherwise, if you buy your child a ticket, they get a normal boarding pass like everybody else with your boarding group and number. This airline has rows of 3 seats on either side of a very narrow aisle. I tend to stick to the far back rows just in case I need to leave the seat with him when we're in the air, and also to try to put some distance between us and other passengers. So we board with family boarding. I grab 2 seats all the way in the very back row, shove all of our stuff into the seats, and go about trying to settle our things in. My son decided to sit in the seat by the window and was watching the ground crew do their thing. I was sitting in the middle seat beside him, the aisle seat was empty, and the plane started to fill up. But again, we were at the very last row, so most people found a seat before they made it to us, and or saw I had a kid with me and decided to sit elsewhere, can't blame them. When the plane was about 3/4 full, I hear someone say excuse me, in a rather snubby voice. I turn to see a woman, maybe 30s. I'm in my early 20s with a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Before I could even respond, the entitled mother demands that I move to the aisle seat and take my son with me so that her daughter could sit by the window. I want to say that if my son was flying free and was a lap infant, I wouldn't have had an issue with moving to the aisle seat to let the little girl sit by the window if the mom had asked me nicely. However, I had purchased 2 tickets with my own money, which isn't easy to swing when you're a single mom, and even if I moved to the aisle seat, my son would have the middle seat and she'd have to sit apart from her daughter. I was not going to be used as a babysitter for someone else's kid on a flight, even if I didn't have my own child to deal with. I tried to explain this to her. Went a little something like this. Oh I would, but I bought 2 seats, and even if I moved there'd only be 1 seat open, so you might want to try somewhere else so you both can't sit together. There were still entire rows that were empty on the plane at this point. You're lying. He's clearly not even 2 yet and under 2 they fly free and sit in your lap. Please move. Now. Yes they can fly for free in your lap, but I specifically bought him his own ticket so he could have his own seat and more room. There are several rows a bit farther forward that are still empty and have window seats. Well, he's small. You should just hold him. My daughter wants to sit by the window and I need to be in the last row, so just hold him so we can sit here. The very back row on the other side was taken up already. I'm really sorry but no. We need the extra space. I bought and paid for the extra seat. I'm not going to give it up just because you feel entitled to this space. Our things are already settled and stowed away. At this point, EM is working herself up into a tizzy and has caught the attention of the older couple sitting across the aisle. The husband tries to tell this M to just choose somewhere else to sit, but she snapped at him to mind his own business. Kinda hard inside such a small space. So when she turned her attention back to me and my now fussing child because this strange lady is yelling at mommy, the wife waved down one of the flight attendants who came over. And that went along these lines, "Hello. Are we all okay over here?" No. This girl refuses to put her son in her lap to make room for us, even though he's clearly less than 2 and can fit in her lap. "Ma'am, is your child a lap infant? He is less than 2 years old. See, I told you. Make her move." But I did purchase him a ticket because I knew he would appreciate having some extra space to get out of my lap. I had grabbed both of our normal paying customer boarding passes and handed them to the flight attendant. See? That doesn't prove anything. They give boarding passes for lap infants. Yes, they do give boarding passes for lap infants, but this is not a lap infant boarding pass. So I'm sorry, but she paid for that seat and there is no assigned seating, so you can't ask her to move. Started going crazy, screaming at me, at the FAA, her kid is crying, but I think it may have been more out of embarrassment than that I and the flight attendant were telling them no. Anyways. The flight attendant ended up threatening to have her removed from the plane by air marshals if she didn't find a different seat. The M huffed angrily, promised to write a terrible review, and told the FAA specifically she was going to call opposite of Northeast Airlines corporate office and have her fired for treating EM and her daughter so poorly. The daughter did get her window seat further up the plane. The flight attendant rolled her eyes, where only I and the older couple could see, and she apologized for you. The rest of the flight went smoothly. My kid laughed when the plane took off and then passed out in his own seat with his head on my leg about 20 minutes into the flight and slept the whole time, and the flight attendant gave me a complimentary glass of wine once he was asleep. I told the pilots at the end of the flight how wonderful she is. I saw EM inside the airport afterwards as we made our way to baggage, berating a cleaning staff member because the airport Burger King was closed at 11:30 p.m, as if the poor staff member even had control over that to begin with. I pointed a TSA person towards them and went on my merry way to see my, not so, baby sister. The woman is lucky that the FAA didn't have her escorted off the plane when the woman said she was going to get fired. FAA has a lot of patience for sure. The preface: I own my own jewelry business. I have a couple stories that can be added here if there is interest. I was doing a small local Celtic festival and I was just starting out at the time. This was under my own purple 10x10 pop-up tent with attachable sidewalls. This minor detail comes into play later. Past, you know the usual suspects: EM, entitled mother, ED, entitled daughter, me, your friendly neighborhood crazy squirrel girl, DH, my best friend, my love, my darling husband. So the show is going, and I only have 2 sidewalls up to block the sun. I am sitting behind the tables in the back working on a custom order for a client. I am in the corner where the sidewalls meet. Enter EM and ED, who was about 15-ish, I can't tell to be honest. My DH starts his typical chat and spiel with the mother. She tells him she is just looking. EM sees I am working and starts to move items on the tables so she can lean over this 2-foot wide table to see what I am working on. I pop my head up and lift my magnifying goggles and say excuse me ma'am, please don't rearrange my stock. Well, I can't see what you are doing. I am working on a client's custom necklace. If you need a hand, DH will happily assist you. That doesn't look hard to do, you should hire my daughter. She makes paracord bracelets. We are not hiring at the moment, but I will keep your suggestion in mind. Well, she can do sales, you shouldn't have a male working selling jewelry. DH's eyebrows go up and he rolls his eyes behind her back. Mom, I want to buy this and this. Picking a couple pairs of earrings and a necklace. No, sweetie, wait until you are an employee and use your discount. I am sorry, but we are not hiring at the moment, and that male is my husband and business partner. EM huffs and grabs her daughter by the arm and starts to walk away. I nod to DH to chase after them to get product back from ED. He comes back, and we chuckle over the situation and thought it was over. I was wrong. So wrong. 1 hour later EM comes back. I have been watching from over there and you have sold a lot of jewelry. I can also see a lot of people walking around with your bags. Okay. Thanks. So, I think I should be your business partner. You can make everything and I will sell it and keep half the money. Honestly, my mind went into blue screen of death mode and my jaw was on the ground. Excuse me, could you repeat that, ma'am? I am not talking to you, I am talking to her. I am sorry. I am not looking for a partner right now. I already have one. Oh, he doesn't count, he is just your husband, he doesn't do anything. Okay, that's it. I stand up, ma'am. I do not need or want a partner, and I am not looking for an employee. This is a family business. Have a great day. EM stalks off. 10 minutes later, hubby goes off for a break. Suddenly I hear a ripping noise as a sidewalk gets ripped off my tent. I stand up, ready to defend my cash box. It's her. She starts ranting at me in a high-pitched, scratchy voice. Honestly, at this point, I can barely pay attention to her words. She starts trying to grab at my tools, while saying how she can sell my stuff for me, and I need her. I scream for security and DH, I could see him 2 booths away. I turn to her, get your freaking hands off my stuff now, and get the hell out of my booth. Security came, heard me out first, and removed her from the festival. Later, comparing notes, she tried this on another booth too. Damn, you kept your cool really well there, with the I am not looking for a partner right now. Also, God, someone save her daughter before she becomes a mini demon. I work in a tech-based retail store. It's a flagship in London, and we're hella busy all the time. We have both sales and repairs. I work on the repair side of things. We also have free training sessions in store, so teaching people how to use our products, and have kids hours as well, so it's appealing for the whole family. We often get a lot of EPs leaving their kids and going off shopping, which we absolutely do not allow, as we're not responsible for anyone in those sessions, but they often get a slap on the wrist and realize what they did was wrong, but today's EP takes the cake. I don't know all the details as I didn't deal with her firsthand, but this is what I know from the grapevine and some first-hand account. I am supporting sales for the day, as customers go through sales first before repairs. They usually have questions about repairs that sales can't answer. That's where I come in. I notice a colleague in a really deep conversation with this young kid, can't be older than 7 or 8, and didn't think much of it until an hour later the same kid is talking to another member of staff. He doesn't seem to be with anyone. I don't think anything of it until this morning. We've just opened and lo and behold, this kid is back and talking to more staff. A lot of us recognize him because of the really bright yellow jacket he was wearing, and we get a bit suspicious. One of the senior staff goes over to chat to him to find out what's the deal. It turns out the kid's mum has dropped him off at store and is going out for the day with friends. He tells us she aims to pick him up by 8 as she did yesterday. 2 issues with this. 1. It's a Sunday, we close at 6. 2. What the absolute ever-living hell. Now this part is blurry as I was in appointments the whole time and only witnessed the end. One of the managers attempts to get some information from the kid, as we're not liable for him. We need to contact dearest mother and get her butt back here for her kid, but the child doesn't know her number, nor does he have a phone on him. Manager is left no choice but to call the police, that also contact Child Protective Services. Not sure if they had to in cases of abandonment or what, that's just what I was told. Police show up and talk to the boy, no idea what happened here, but by some miracle they are able to contact Mumzilla, and then crap hits the fan. Turns out, she was having a lovely time halfway across London, and she's pissed that someone called the police on her son. She eventually gets to the store screaming like a banshee about how dare we interrupt her day. This is kind of how it went, paraphrasing is again, I wasn't there, you know the drill, manager. Why did you call the police for my son? He was perfectly fine playing with the phones. Ma'am, this is a retail store, it's private property, and not a daycare center. We are not responsible for your child. Well, he's been here lots of times and no one has ever complained. It's your job to look after customers. We're here to serve and support, not babysit. What if your child was abducted? How dare you threaten something like that on my son? I would take you to court for negligence. I'm pretty sure abandonment is negligence. All this was said in front of a police officer, which was wonderful. They were both escorted outside, and we began the process of banning from the store. No idea what will happen to the woman or her son. Maybe next time hire a sitter instead of dropping him off with us. Should have called the mom and been like, you just want a new phone, you need to come pick it up right away then. When she gets there just throw the kid at her and lock the doors. I, 40F, was an assistant manager at a movie theater back in the day when Cars was first released. Not sure if this is still a rule now, but Disney required all theaters showing their movies to offer 5 showings a day. Since this was a 2-hour movie, we got literally 5 minutes between seatings to clean up between shows. I was hustling in to help the crew before we had to allow seating, and I came up, with broom and dustpan in hand, upon a Karen and her child. Her kid had picked up his snack box and drink cup and was carrying it to the trash can. She tittered and said, "Oh no, sweetie, they pay people to pick that up for you. Put it down." The kid proceeded to squeal with glee and throw the box, full of popcorn and half-consumed soda, at my feet, where it exploded everywhere. She laughed and waved her hand in my face, as if it excused it action, then took his hand and tried to walk past me. I stepped in her way and said, "You pick that up." She cackled and waved her hand again, trying to pull her kid up the aisle. I stepped in front of her again and said, "I said pick that up." She kept grinning and chuckling like it was a freaking joke. I had the kid soda dripping down my legs and soaking my shoes. I didn't budge. She demanded to speak to my manager. I informed her that he was a bigger idiot than I was, and she wouldn't get anywhere with him before kneeling down to the toddler's level, looking him dead in the eye, and saying, "Don't let your mom turn you into an idiot." She screeched for my manager, my best friend, who laughed in her face, told her to stop littering, and asked her if she'd behave any differently if someone behaved the same way in her house, and to get the hell out of our theater. She left the theater, screaming at the top of her lungs that she would never come back and would tell all her friends to never come back either. We shouted, "Awesome, thank you." She was back literally the next day, because she wanted free childcare, while she went shopping with her friends. She didn't realize our staff worked pretty much 7 days a week. We had to call the police, because we had 8 abandoned children, ages 4 to 13, and we were locking up for the night, at 2 a.m. This is the type of person who will leave a gallon of milk in the bread aisle in a grocery store, because they pay people to clean up. Hate this. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story is about a woman who tried to steal OP's phone for her kid and then put on a crap show. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.